But heartland,
Well, not a long growing season.
thank goodness for talking.
A little damp.
We're ready? Okay, we'll start this preamble again. It's now 2:13. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We're sitting as the Committee of Adjustment to hear applications for minor variance and severance consents. We are present with 4 out of 5 committee members, and we are present with our staff, including our secretary treasurer. Our first order of business is the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nation. Our work on these lands respectively acknowledges the resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Jennifer, can I turn to you, please, for our explanation of process for today?
Certainly, through you, Chairman Gibb. The applications will be considered in the order they appear on the agenda, with the minor variance coming first and then the 2 consent applications. When I review each application, I will give an overview of each application. Then we will ask for any questions from the audience, whether there's anybody in favor, against, or anybody has any questions. And then finally, the applicants will be given an opportunity to say something if they'd like. We're asking that anybody making a presentation give their name and address so that we can have that for the record, please. All questions should be addressed to the chairperson. And if you would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, we ask that you sign the sheet in the lobby. All of the applicants will be provided with a copy of the decision without signing the sheet. Over to you.
Give us the planning.
Certainly, through you, Chairman Gibb. This is an application for a minor variance to permit a larger additional residential unit on a property located at 8182B Dale Road. It's located on the north side of Dale Road, just west of Burnham Street and west of Dale Road Public School. The property is an irregularly shaped parcel with a fairly narrow frontage driveway that provides access to both the subject property and an adjacent property identified as 8182A Dale Road. So the applicant is applying to permit an additional residential unit with a maximum floor area of 121 square meters instead of the normally permitted 98 square meters. And that's in section 5.2 FII of the township's zoning bylaw. The 1.2 hectare subject property is developed with a single detached dwelling, a detached garage, and other accessory building. There's a water course that flows through the adjacent property to the east, and there are some valley lands that are associated with that water course. The GRCA, or Ganaraska Region Area Conservation Area Regulated Area, does extend onto the subject property. However, it does not include the area on which the proposed additional residential unit will be located. The applicant is proposing to replace an existing detached garage with the new additional residential unit. The provincial planning statement from the province permits and encourages additional residential units. This property is located in an agricultural area. Additional residential units are permitted. So We don't have any issues really with the PPS. There is a natural hazard floodplain on adjacent lands. However, the Conservation Authority has confirmed that the proposed structure will be located outside of those hazard lands. Northumberland County commented that the Williams Treaty First Nations be contacted with respect to an archaeological report or study for the proposed additional residential unit because the property is within 300 meters of a water course. However, the property has already been disturbed in this area, and the proposed additional residential unit is replacing the existing detached garage. So I did not recommend that a archaeological assessment be conducted for this. So the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement. The property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine, so there's no impact with respect to that. It's designated agricultural areas in the county official plan, which allows for additional residential units, as does the Hamilton Township official plan. Now, the township's official plan contains the 4 tests for a minor variance. It must be minor. The variance must be desirable and appropriate for the development or use of the land. It must maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and must maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Well, the variance is minor. They're requesting 121 square meters instead of 98 square meter. There's no impact on adjacent uses. There's no residential use within sight of where the proposed additional residential unit is going to be. The closest residential unit is the dwelling to the south of the subject property, 8182A Dale Road, and it is screened from the new additional residential unit will be screened from that dwelling by the existing house. So the impact is minimal on, and if anything, on adjacent properties. Also, the property is 1.2 hectares, and with the additional residential unit, total lot coverage will be 2.9%, which is significantly below the maximum of 20% that's allowed on a property in the rural residential zone. The other tests are, it must be desirable and appropriate for the development or use of land. Well, additional residential units are encouraged on properties where a single detached dwelling is permitted to provide an alternative housing stock or type in the municipality. So the property is serviced or currently has an additional residential unit. They have a single detached dwelling. They're proposing an additional residential unit that will be used by a family member, providing housing for them in this area. It maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The property is zoned rural residential, so residential development is anticipated on this property. It already exists, and additional residential units are permitted. And the official plan also has residential use. It permits residential uses on existing lots of record in the agricultural area. So the application is consistent with the township's official plan. We haven't had any public comments on the application. It was circulated to the neighboring residents on September 30th, and the sign was posted on September 26th, and I've received no public comments. So there were no objections identified during the agency circulation. The one suggestion from Northumberland County about the archaeology, and other than that, there was nothing else. So the recommendation is that the application be approved to permit an increased size of a additional residential unit on the property of 121 square meters.
Thank you, Jennifer. There is a process that we go through, although I think it's going to be done very quickly. If there happens to be anyone present that wishes to speak, including the applicant, then we would ask you to come to the podium and turn the microphone on. So, to survey the audience, is there anyone here other than the applicant in support of this application? Is there anyone in the audience in opposition to the application? Is there anyone seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none, we could turn to the applicant and say, would you like to speak to the application, or would you like committee members to ask questions and then you can field those? The choice would certainly be yours. Thank you. To committee members, do we have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we shall move on with the motion to approve, I presume. And who are we gonna, Mark, please?
I'll make the motion to approve, just with the recommendations from our planner, please.
Okay, is there a seconder to that motion? Moved by committee member Larry. I'll simply go to all those in favor. Carried, thank you. Jennifer, do you need any follow-up for reasons?
Through you, Chairman Jib. No, I believe that Councillor Lovshin said with the reasons in the report that are identified in the discussed planning analysis, those four items that we have there, that's about the test, meeting the tests of the Planning Act. And no one in objection.
Thank you. And to our applicant, you will receive notification from our staff. If you have any questions about process or timing or the next steps, please reach out to staff after this meeting or a following day. Thank you. Our next application, and I believe second application, is in the line Jib name on the north side of Jib Road. Jennifer, I'll turn this over to you again for the explanation of the application.
Certainly, through you, Chairman Jib. With your permission, I'm going to discuss both applications at the same time, and then we'll make a decision on each application separately because they are identical severances next to each other.
Please do so.
Okay, so each of these applications, that's BO 825 and BO 925, apply to a property located at 8010B Jib Road. And they're proposing to create a vacant 4.4 hectare rural residential lots, each of them. BO 825 pertains to the easternmost lot and BO 925 pertains to the western lot. So the subject property is approximately 34.8 hectares. It's located on the north side of Jib Road and on the south side of Bethel Grove Road. The property is developed with a single detached dwelling, storage shed, a storage barn. And when I did my site visit, I believe that there is a communication tower on top of a drumlin or a hill that runs through the property. There is a steep slope that runs about a third of the way north on the property, running east-west or northeast to southwest. Then it divides the property. So there's a top portion of the property and that's accessed off Bethel Grove Road, and then the southern portion of the property that's accessed off of Jib Road. The proposed lots are to be created in the southeast corner of the subject property. So the property is designated rural in the township's official plan, and the provincial planning statement allows for severances in the rural area. The PPS contains policy for the policies requiring the protection of natural heritage features. There are no natural heritage features identified on the property. There is a water course on the south side of the road, a tiny bit of which the regulated area may extend onto one of the proposed lots, but the Conservation Authority has indicated that they don't have any concerns with the property. Compliance with minimum distance separation guidelines is mandated by both the PPS and the township's official plan. There were 2 livestock barns identified in the area. MDS calculations were prepared for those livestock barns, and the proposed severed lots are located outside of the required MDS setbacks or minimum distance separation setbacks. Section 4.6 of the PPS contains policies requiring the protection of heritage properties and cultural heritage landscapes and archaeological resources. The province of Ontario has prepared a criteria for evaluating whether or not an archaeological report is required. And because the proposed development lands are located within 300 meters of a water course, it's recommended that an archaeological assessment be prepared. So I've included that as one of the conditions of consent on this application. I'm not saying that the application shouldn't be approved at this time pending completion of that, but just that it be included as a condition, and before the consents can be finalized, we'll have that archaeological report would need to be prepared. The subject property is not located on the Oak Ridges Moraine. The county official plan identifies this property as rural areas, and lot creation is permitted in accordance with the local official plan policies. The township official plan permits residential services on properties in the rural area, provided they can be appropriately serviced. They have frontage on a year-round municipally maintained road, and the policies in the official plan permit no more than a maximum of 3 residential severances from a property as it existed on October 21st, 2003. There have been no residential severances from this property since that time. The subject property is zoned marginal agriculture on Schedule A. The marginal agriculture zone permits a single detached dwelling and agricultural uses. The minimum lot area is 2 hectares and the minimum frontage is 60 meters. The proposed 0.4 hectare lots do not comply with the marginal agriculture zone provisions, so they need to be rezoned to the rural residential zone, which will permit a single detached dwelling on a lot with 0.4 area of 0.4 hectares and 45 meters of frontage. The application was circulated under the Planning Act as required. Agency comments. Nobody had any objections. Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority commented that the subject land is located in close proximity to Gages Creek and therefore is partially regulated by GRCA. The proposed severed lots identified as A and B are located outside of the GRCA regulated areas, and they had no objection. County Planning commented that they have no objections, but suggested the applicant's archaeologists consult with Williams Treaty First Nations. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the property on September 30th, and a sign was posted on September 26th. No public comments have been received to date. So there have been no previous residential severances from this property since October 21st, 2003. There are no natural heritage features on the subject property. The proposed severances comply with the minimum distance separation requirements from livestock barns. However, because the property is located within 300 meters of a water course and has been largely undisturbed, an archaeological assessment is required. So it's recommended that the application be approved subject to the conditions contained in the report, one of which is that the severed parcels would need to be rezoned, and also that an archaeological site assessment must be prepared for the severed lots. And the conditions are the same for both of the proposed severed lots.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll obviously need 2 separate motions when we get to it for each of the 2 applications. Very well. Process to the audience. Anyone other than the applicants present wishing to support the application? Anyone present wishing to oppose the applications? Anyone present for clarification on the applications? Seeing none, that will be recorded. To our applicants, would you like to speak to the application or maybe field a question if the committee members have any? Choice is yours. Thank you. Thank you. To committee members, questions, comments? I'm afraid to say I have one. It's in respect to the archaeological, and you knew that when you typed this. Has this been discussed with our applicants? Do they have an understanding?
I have not discussed this specific recommendation with the applicants. I can't remember when when we discussed the application, when it was originally submitted, whether or not this possibility might come up. I have been starting to do that. I can't remember at this point whether I did with this applicant specifically. This is an issue that has been coming more closely looked at in our area over the past year. And I have been receiving comments regarding this that I would not normally have received in the past, that we're getting these comments more and more often now regarding archaeology. And when you do go to the archaeology, the Ministry of Multiculturalism and Citizenship, I think it is, website, and you go through the screening checklist, and it talks about when an archaeology report is required. 300 if it's within 300 meters of a identified water course, that is one of the things that triggers it.
I guess turning to our staff, this is quite a new item for the Committee of Adjustment to be putting on as a condition. The full extent of this is not known to me. I would ask our staff to share at a later time the nature of this report and the process to the best of our ability. Again, it's new to staff as well. I'm assuming that there's different degrees, different levels of this type of report, and that might be very beneficial for our applicants to have an understanding on. So I would ask that. I put it in the form of a question. Would you please? And I'll leave it at that because that's my only comment.
Certainly, through you, Chairman Jib. It's an archaeology study. There are licensed archaeologists in Ontario who are qualified to undertake these studies. Usually they start with, they call them a phase 1 or a stage 1 archaeology report. And typically, if you've identified that a phase 1 is required under the checklist, usually a phase 2 is required also. I was speaking to one planning consultant who apparently has seen one archaeology study that stopped at a phase 1, and the phase 1 is just a desktop. We look at papers. We don't go out on site. Phase 2, they go out and they do test holes with a shovel. There's a prescribed, I don't know what the distance is, but they go out and they dig test holes and they see if they see anything. If they don't see anything, phase 2 it's finished at phase 2. If they find something in phase 2, then they go to phase 3. And I'm not sure what they have to find in phase 3 in order to trigger a phase 4. Usually they stop at a phase 2, but sometimes they do go on, and as they go higher in numbers, they get more detailed. So that is the process. And once the archaeologist finishes the archaeology study, they say it's done at phase 1, then they submit their findings to the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, and then they'll receive back from them an acknowledgement of submission, and then it's considered closed.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to turn to our applicants and say, I suspect you have questions. I suspect that you're going to want to sit down with staff later on and establish what you can after you've had a chance to think about this. I'm quite sure it's new to both of you. I'm not so sure that it's not new to committee members, really, truly.
Through you, Chairman Jib, we did this on one other consent recently, and that was the new lot created over, not Nagel Road, Payne Road and Van Leuven Road. It was the Hall brothers. The last consent they did required the completion of an archaeological assessment.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn to you as applicants. Do you have any general questions now, or would you like to sort of meet with staff at a later time and work through this process?
Yeah.
Adam, please come to the podium, make sure the microphone's on. By the way, we're supposed to ask you who you are and what your address is, if you would, please.
My name is Adam Line, and I'm at 801.
Thank you, Adam. Go ahead.
I guess the only question I have is just timing on assessment, right? All of the brothers, how long was that process?
Their consent was granted earlier in the year, and the archaeological assessment was submitted, I don't know, maybe June. And I was getting ready to finalize their severance, but I don't have the acknowledgement from the Ministry of Multiculturalism and Citizenship. So you can get an archaeologist to do the report and get it submitted. I think the timing issue is going to be when you get the letter back acknowledgement from the ministry.
So we only have a certain amount of time.
That's right. You've got 2 years.
Okay.
You've got 2 years to finalize your conditions of consent. So I would think that if you had an archaeological assessment done fairly promptly, you won't be able to drag your feet and wait for a year to get it done. But if you were to get it done promptly and get it submitted, it should be done in 2 years. I would suggest that if it's not done in 2 years, that perhaps the provincial member of parliament should be consulted on that, because they shouldn't be sitting on something like that for greater than for that long time.
Yeah, I was just curious. I've reached out to the ministry before. It's taken over a year to get an answer. That was my one. I guess the other concern I have is the fact, I guess that's what began to ask, into the land course, actually, agricultural.
I can speak to that. Not how in the manner in which I would like to speak to that, but yes is your answer. And as you can appreciate, our property at home has many of those. And there is inconsistency in how they are deemed or not deemed watercourses. I can quite honestly tell you that I've had several conversations on the topic with GRCA staff, and they are in a position to recognize the difference, but the process to change after it's been mapped is a very different position. That's a personal observation on our own property, not this one. Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, we'll move on. Did we get a motion? No. We need a motion. Larry, what's your motion?
B0825, I approve the consent.
Do we have a seconder? Moved by Larry, second by Mark. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to, what is it, B0925. Do we have a mover? Bruce? Mark, same motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
And I'm going to say that's because we have had, it's recommended in the planning report and there was no public objections. Okay.
For both, Jennifer. Obviously, you will receive notification on our conclusion. The notice of, which is known as the notice of decision. The conditions will be required to be completed within a 2-year time frame. Again, if you have any questions for staff, please reach out to them after this meeting or a follow-up day. Thank you. Moving on, which is other business, and there is none. Oh, certainly, Mark.
I know the county's doing a study on the agricultural lands within the county and changes and so forth. Is there many changes in our area, Jennifer, that we should be aware of or commenting on?
There are some changes, yes. I've provided some feedback back and forth. The most, I'm going to call it the most significant change is in the sort of Cornish Hollow Road, North Rose Road area. There is an area that is currently designated agriculture, and that is going to be changing to rural. That's the most significant area. Other than that, there's a few spots here and there, but as soon as, I think I can bring it to council now. I had some preliminary mapping that wasn't out there yet. It's now out there, so it won't be coming to the October meeting, but it will come to the November council meeting with the updated mapping on it.
Can I just ask one follow-up question? Does that have to come through our council first to be approved, or will that just go through county and they'll approve it without our comments?
That's an interesting question. The county official plan is adopted through county council. I don't know whether whether they are going to be requesting an official buy-in from each lower tier municipality or not. When it comes time for us to update our official plan, of course, that's done at our level here. And it has to be done in accordance with the county mapping. Sorry, Mark, my answer is, our Councillor Lovshin, I don't know whether they require a formal, I can ask them.
I believe it's circulated to us for comments. And in that process, we have an opportunity to have input. I don't believe it's a mandatory requirement that that process take place in which I've just described. So there's an opportunity rather than a mandatory condition. Any other new business? We'll move on to adjournment.
I'm just gonna follow up on that one. I believe that the county's going to be holding some open houses this fall with respect to that mapping. I don't think the dates have yet been scheduled because they're just working out the facilities. And once that information is out there, I'll provide it to council.
Actually, that information is out there now. Yes, just recently. Just recently. As in, I think last week, I think it was circulated. And thank you, Jennifer, for offering to circulate that to all council members. There's not that many open house locations, so if you miss one, you're going to be driving for 3/4 of an hour. Adjournment. Motion reads that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on October 14th, 2025 be adjourned at 2:46. Do we have a mover? Moved by Bruce, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Thank you all.